Okay, we are live with a Battle Royale 2020 card set season preview. And Butch, if you have a TV on the background, I can hear
Yeah.
some of it. You can, if it's possible to. Thank you.
I'll mute it until I talk.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so we are admittedly unprepared, and that's the best way to go, I'd say. We're going to dive into basically going to rely on this draft order here that we saw, and then we'll also spring back and forth to the ratings sheet that Dennis sent over, and then also the player ratings guide. That's the best way to do it. I think I probably marked this one up 6 ways to Sunday, but it's probably still useful. So let's go team by team, and we will start here with Joe, who got the first pick. Number one pick can be a double-edged sword. I don't know if it was helpful in this set or not. It's a good question. All things being equal, it's like those Rams DBs, which Joe took. How much did they stick out from the rest? 5, 6, 4, 6. Don't see the run rating here on the free safety. Troy Hill added in as a nickel 5. Well, with Pitt, you're just taking the hit on you're trading a point, 2 points there. You're really trading a net of 1. Pitt went later because I think Baltimore went second with Jimmy Smith as an extra 5 slot corner. So you had some muddling up toward the top, I would say. But if you're Joe and you prioritize DBs, you had to figure there's no way you get a top squad coming back the other way. So
yeah, I think that had to be his thinking too. He knew he wasn't going to get a good squad in the second round, so he just jumped on the Rams there.
Yeah, that would make sense. I'm with you there, Butch. Then second was Tampa O-line. So at that point, that would make got the O-line breakdown right here. Tampa went third overall in the position grouping behind Green Bay and Indy, and then back to Stafford. Stafford is in the third round, which would have been 48th overall. Is that right? No, that would have been 37th overall, right? 37th overall. I thought it was a pretty good pick.
Yeah, I think right there that's a good place for him to go. Really,
I'm with you. The thing about Stafford is maybe it's just me, Butch, but I put a premium on long pass ability, and among those at the time that were available, as far as long pass completions were concerned, he was by far the best available. What? Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. I did not get a chance to get a good QB with a long pass, but I do put a premium on it as well. And I think right there's a good. He was about the last one. I guess you can argue about Roethlisberger, who didn't even get drafted, but he's got that 9. Yep. But I think Stafford was the best one left for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my late first round pick, I was 13th. I was looking at Brady, Stafford, and Herbert, and it was pretty clear among those three, Herbert's the right guy. But the reason why it was those three was because they were the only three left with 8 long pass right completions. So to sneak in Stafford so many picks later, I thought was a really nice move by Joe right there.
Yeah, the battle royale and summer sprint drafts, they're really a draft of runs. So when a run happens, there's good guys that are going to slip.
Yep.
And I think that's what happened with Stafford.
Yeah, in that second round leading up to that pick, 2 quarterbacks were taken versus 8 not 8, less than 8. Oh, it may have been 8. So in the first round, we had, 8 quarterbacks taken, just 2 in the second round, and then he was the lone third round pick before it dropped all the way down to 6 with the Atlanta QB, if this is accurate. So he caught the tail end, and I would agree with that break point right there from 3 to 6. He was the last good one out there. Ron, for a while anyway. I mean, everybody else is good. Don't get me wrong, but Stafford is on a different level. The picks ahead before that was Ron, Bob had a shot, needed a quarterback. Brian needed a quarterback. They all passed on quarterback. Instead, Brian went with the Baltimore linebacker, Sean with the Green Bay offensive line, Ron with the Indianapolis O line. So 2 O lines taken ahead of Stafford there. And not to jump to Ron and Bob, but as a result, Ron got Minshew, who is an underrated quarterback. He's a weak long pass, but what I like about Minshew's long pass is you don't have to be afraid throwing it. Yeah, you're not going to get much on his card, but if your defensive free safety's moving around, Minshew's good to have because you can throw that long pass with confidence. You don't have to worry about a pick coming on his card like you typically would for a 7th round quarterback. And then Bob ended up with Kyler Murray in round 9. So for Joe to get Stafford and have an O line set up in front of him, moving into the 4th round, he picked up the Minnesota wide receivers, which were among the top taken, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 4th overall was Minnesota. Atlanta, Green Bay, and Houston ahead. One thing I need to get up here, Butch, is one thing I need to get up. Oh, we can just say, hey, Phil. Oh, man, I would join, but it's too noisy at the bar. One thing I need to add up is we need to get the defensive ratings up. Where did Dennis place those? Do you remember, Butch? He sent an email? What did he do? Where'd he stick those? Oh, Dennis.
Yeah, they're under general.
Okay.
Up a little bit above your post.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. So Joe ended up poor good by going Minnesota linebacker in 5. So Minnesota linebacker in 5 ended up being, fair for a 5th round pick. It's the 12th best. So, I mean, you could say if you end up with a poor D that may not be what you're looking for out of a 5th round linebacker pick, but that's what it was. That's where it sat at that point in time. I don't know that you would pass on it because you had some guys behind it. Michael needed a linebacker. Pitt needed a linebacker too. I needed a linebacker as well. So you're probably disappointed to get the poor run D with spending a 5th round pick on a linebacker, but to me, that's sort of where this draft was. He probably was resigned to that fact that I haven't done the math to know if he had a chance at average picking early on defensive line or not. Maybe you know, Butch.
I don't know. Had he taken a D line before that? That's what I was just going to ask. Did
Had
he have
anyone?
No. Had Joe taken a D line before that 5th round?
Joe, no. Joe took the D line in the 9th round, Tennessee.
Wow. Okay.
So,
yeah.
So he might have been resigned to poor. I know I was resigned to poor pass by the 5th.
Yeah.
So he might have been resigned to poor run by the 5th. And for what it's worth, right? If you're going to have poor, you're better off with poor run than poor pass. What Strat does not give you in these draft cards is any advantage in turnovers when you have a highly rated run D. But you do get obviously an advantage in interceptions with the better grade that you have. Which is a very important imbalance. Of course, this only happens when you use individual fumble ratings and blah, 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 which I'm glad we do. But one of the weaknesses of the system is that even if you get an excellent run defense, you're not causing more turnovers. For all the work that it takes to get an excellent run or a good run defense, no turnover advantage comes with it. Different for the pass defense, obviously. So if you're going to end up poor, may as well end up poor with the run, and he does. Goes Minnesota tight end and ends up with the Seattle halfbacks. Seattle was the 15th overall. taken ahead of Washington, Chicago, and Tampa. Um, so ends up with a battery of Stafford and Carson. One of the problems with those Seattle halfbacks is Carlos Hyde is not going to scare anybody into a pass call. I mean, it's nice in one respect because you're going to get some wrong running on him, and that can be helpful maybe in short yardage and that sort of thing. But
Yeah, I think what he was thinking with Thielen and Jefferson, people are gonna be playing pass, so he might have some open run shots there.
yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine. So Tom, in the past, would give us a projected win total. Um, I don't know. I'm not Tom, so I'm not going to be so bold to put a projected win total out there. With poor run D, and that's one of five poor run Ds out there. Just shows you how stressed this set was on defense. But ends up with a good pass D. So that's not the worst position to be in if you can move the ball. Good offensive line, good quarterback. Obviously, 5s and 6 galore from the Rams.
Yeah, and Joe's a good coach, so
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna know how to play that team. So I don't
Moving on
like
to
I don't like guessing records either. So yeah,
yeah.
we'll just leave that to Tom.
Heard. Thank you. Ron took Derrick Henry at his top spot, 1.2. Makes sense. He's a complete outlier in the set. When we were looking for halfbacks, all of us pretty much had a crack at Dalvin Cook, who ended up going 14. He's a similar sort of column, but to be any of us want to put up with Cook's fumble, which is not outrageous, but it's elevated. You don't have that problem with Henry, obviously. Gives you all the runs. You pay a massive price if you guessed wrong. Let's just go to the. Let's go to. I don't know why he's right here, but he is right here. There's his results in the player ratings file. Just a highly intimidating card. Sure, he's going to frustrate you here and there, and I don't have. Let me get the league manager up to get the cards up here. He doesn't guarantee great runs 6, 7, 8 guessed wrong, and of course you'd love to see that, and who wouldn't? So he does have the potential to disappoint, but really what Henry's about in my eyes is run calls from the defense. You're going to give your receivers opportunities. If they're halfway decent, you're going to give them a lot of opportunities for big gains. I put the game up, not league manager. My fault. I'll take a quick look at his card. Here it comes.
Yeah, Henry is like Dennis calls. Henry was the unicorn of the set. He's got the card. And I can't remember who Ron took a quarterback, but if he took a strong QB and he gets all those run calls, he'll be doing fine.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. The run calls are a massive help. Here's that card finally. Our stock leagues I've been playing in, most guys have been going 2 yards above their yards per carry, roughly, maybe 3. He averaged 5.4 in real life, so you're looking at 8 yards carry. Obviously, keyed yards, wrong yards, right yards. Disappointing rolls might be on linebacker guessed wrong, but and of course the end run 7 guessed wrong is highly annoying, and that's going to come up. I mean, obviously, sitting there at a 6-1 chance going to your card, it's going to happen. But look what's it's just an amazing card around that. 52 on 2, 31 on 4, long gain on 9, short gain on 10. Just
and he's not going to hurt you in the passing game. He can catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit too.
Yeah. So the quarterback to go with him is Jacksonville. So, perhaps equally important is the receivers, right? And can those receivers make you pay? Green Bay was the 2nd overall unit taken, I believe. Yeah, 2nd overall unit with Adams. A unit like waiting a little bit, getting a unit like the Chargers, right, where there's so many long gains across all four wide receivers. I'm always looking for long gains. I didn't get a unit that had long gains. It was more those plus 30, plus 40 varieties. Those point estimate readings as opposed to LGs. But Green Bay obviously has one of the best receivers in the set.
Now, did he pick up more receivers in his return units, or is he going with Lazard as number two?
Well, let's see. With New Orleans, he did get somebody, right, but I don't think of particularly high value, if I'm not mistaken.
So that could just put up some double teams there. But again, he's got the number one receiver and running back, so I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, I'd say so. As far as D goes, Ron is looking at average. Got to be happy with that in this set. No complaints at all as far as D is concerned. The Indianapolis O line in the second round is going to help as well. There's some good pass rushers out there. Arizona DBs were taken in the fifth round, which was the 12th overall. But however you get to average, you get to average, right? So he got there. Buffalo tight ends.
You just want to get off of that poor. You don't want to be in that poor zone. So
yeah.
I think the pass rush is what has put the emphasis this year on the O lines. There was, I think, more O lines taken early than there were D lines, just because people wanted to protect the passer.
Yeah, let's take a look. So in the first four rounds, and we have a joiner here, Lawrence. You can hear us, Lawrence. I don't see your devices connected, so maybe you're just coming to listen in. Let's see, O lines in the first four rounds we had 8. D lines in the first four rounds we had more. So at 11, but they sort of went neck and neck. In round 2, there was 3 offensive lines taken, 2 defensive lines taken, none of either taken in the first round. You usually get a first round defensive line, at least one, if not 2 or 3 or 4, a handful. So yeah, I would agree with you. More balanced than usual. With Henry in the backfield, an average D. There's no reason Ron can't make the playoffs. His QB is Minshew. Minshew avoids mistakes. Good flat pass. Take a quick look at his card. Good flat pass, sort of keeps up with the Joneses on the flat pass. Short pass, the double team down 7 is complete. Just 2 through 4 interception on 11. And then going deep, he has long gain on 4. A couple must runs there. How's the must run look? Not bad, right? Yeah, not bad. So, he minimizes damage. He's not gonna inflict damage upon you. And I believe his QB wide receiver fumble is just fine too. I didn't double check that one. Jacksonville. There you are. Sitting at, oh no, it's a 3. So you could see some problems there. That could come back to bite Ron. Oh.
And just like everybody, I mean, this league is full of good coaches, and Ron's another good coach. And he'll get the most out of Henry. I can promise you that for sure.
Yep. Dennis starts out with Watson, which was an interesting selection, I thought. Agree he's the best one out there. Would you reach at 3 though for him?
Dennis, he called me right before his pick, and we were talking about Watson and another unit, and I told him, I said I didn't think neither one of them are going to make it to 12, but he's got the elite QB card, so that's a tough call. So I mean, I think in this draft when quarterbacks are going heavy, I think that was a good pick.
The alternate I would have to imagine is Rodgers. You don't have to say, but to me that's the only one that hangs with him. Obviously all 3 levels. Long gain on 8 plus the 4, which is sort of where a lot of guys are on long pass. There's a lot of 8s on long gain. You can find data long gain on Mahomes and find data long gain with Herbert. 8 and 10 seems to be this year's sort of good long pass quarterback setup. Stafford, of course, we talked about, but he brings it in all three levels and just beautifully min fumbles, gets you the must runs to a level that the others just don't bring. And again, like Joe, the question is, well, what are you left with if you don't take him? And he would have been left with Stafford, right? That's what he would have been left with. If he knew that going in, would he still take Watson? But you don't know that going in, right? I think that's the question. He could have picked up the Baltimore half. I mean, obviously, could have picked up any of those picks behind him and wound up pairing it with Stafford, right? So is the leap from Stafford to Watson enough or bigger than the leap from Mostert to the Baltimore crew, right? And of course, there's three halfbacks on San Fran as well. So yeah, and that is that second round pick, the San Fran halfbacks, a team that I know well. I have Mostert. Had Mostert in last year's Battle Royale. Also have him in a draft league, and it's a really nice card. He can pop most anywhere. A little bit frustrating for me here running off tackle. I tend to run off tackle before the 50 because I want to get that long gain and you minimize any damage on the end run right if they do guess right. Then past the 50, sort of over past the 40, really, I shift over to linebacker because you're just going to get better, chunkier yards, and the long gain and 37-yarder has less impact in plus territory. But a really strong back, has a nice, not as nice as before receiving card. Last year, much better receiving card than he has this year, but still capable. And there's other guys on the squad. It's not limited to just Mostert. Jeff Wilson has a good card. Jeff Wilson leads Dennis's Frozen Tundra draft squad, and you see those short gains. Across the board, and that's the one thing about this rule set is you don't have low usage, and low usage would not affect McKinnon anyway. But there's McKinnon's card, but that does throw a wrench into a lot of our planning. For those of us that play in draft leagues, most draft leagues do have low usage turned on. So when it's turned off, all of a sudden the equation just switches, and we all need to get reoriented with, okay, who are the good low usage guys out there? I mean, while we're sitting here on San Francisco, may as well touch on, probably the most attractive, at least on the surface, low usage guy out there. I thought was Juszczyk because he's packaged with Kittle. So you're going to get 10 carries of that. Isn't that nice? Yeah. However, I think as most of us saw, the fumble almost makes him unusable. I mean, some people don't mind a big fumble. I mind it.
I mind too. Trust me.
So if Juszczyk did not have that fumble, Butch, where does San Francisco go?
Yeah, I mean, if without that fumble, I can't remember where Kittle and usage went, but they got to be top 2 or 3. I mean, second round at least.
Yeah,
because that card of usage, like you said, it's unlimited. It's great.
26 overall is where they went. Second pick for Tyke. Kelsey went a few picks after that. I thought with you, because of that fumble, in my mind, they dropped to third or fourth round, just because if all you're getting is Kittle, and I'm going to be afraid, and just, maybe I'm just a fraidy cat, right? It's not going to happen that often. I mean, it is up over a 10% chance when guessed right. So
yeah, I had Kittle, I had the San Francisco tight ends ahead of KC just because of Juszczyk, though. Yep. He has Kittle and the fullback. Where the fullback at KC, I can't even tell you who it is.
Yep. Yeah, Sherman. So you get some blocking there, but that's it. Of course, Juszczyk brings the blocking, brings all the intangibles other than the fumble. Great receiver card as well. I mean, look at that. How many fullbacks have plus 10 on 8 flat pass right? And there's a 9 and a 6. I mean, just a third down weapon. But but that fumble's going to get you. Anyway, we're here to talk about the San Francisco halfbacks. Certainly a strong crew. I think I had them in my upper tier. They were the last ones in my upper tier, and they went 10th overall in the second round to Dennis, and then Dennis started going defense. Went 3 defensive picks in a row. As a result, Dennis winds up good against the run and average against the pass. So successful. And if you're going to invest 3, 4, 5 on D, that's probably what you're going to expect. Didn't get to O-line until the end with Minnesota. That's interesting. I could sort of feel Dennis getting squeezed on O-line right around here in the 6th round when all of a sudden there was a run, and toward the end of the 5th. If I had to guess, if we had Dennis on the line, he's probably planning on an O-line pick here in the 6th. But 2, 4, 6 went ahead of him at the end of the 5th and the beginning of the 6th. That probably boxed him out and just bracketed him down to the next level, where he's like put his hands up and said, "Well, I'll just have to take whatever's given to me at the end." Dennis was also on, and all these guys down in 1 through 5 got hit with the tail end of a kicker run. Kicker started at the end of the 7th round and just went wild. 8 kickers taken in the 8th round after 3 at the end of the 7th. So he wound up with Boswell and Pittsburgh kicker punter unit. For wide receivers, I think the reason you go Cleveland is because you're not going to get the tight end you want. But really, I think he wound up with a pretty decent unit in the Patriots. I had the Patriots up higher than they went. The Patriots went 15th. I like that crew. I like Myers catching long passes out of the blocking back roll. I like Izzo, and Izzo's got some yards. So let's take a quick look here. Here's Kobe Myers. Yeah, he can line up at blocking back, and he'll go deep for you. Completion on 7, completion on 10, and you're going to catch those matchups where you're facing a 0 left linebacker, and that's an advantage right there. And then you have Izzo at tight. He's got yards. He's got long gains on this card. Not the best card you ever saw, that's for sure. But not bad where he caught him. I doubt he was expecting to come back and get New England there, because you take Cleveland because of the quantity of the receivers, not the quality of the receivers. They've got a bunch. But if you were looking for, and a lot of us are thinking about it in that context, depending on who went ahead and for your own team as you're building your team, are you looking for the best receiver out there, or the best pair, or do you need production from your 3 and 4? I'm guessing Dennis was thinking he'd need production from 3 and 4. Turned out, as far as I'm concerned anyway, he's got a bona fide set of tight ends there that can actually do damage, and some of his Cleveland wide receivers probably are not going to get the amount of snaps that he had anticipated. So that's good news for Dennis as far as I'm concerned. Ends up with Gunner at punt returner. Paid a price for him in the 6th round, but he is clearly tied for number 1, if not the best, really, best punt returner out there. So we can all dread that, and he's going to pick up a few extra coffin corners as we attempt to avoid Gunner. Got the joiner here. Lawrence. Hey, Lawrence.
Hey.
Can you hear us, Lawrence?
Yeah, hi. I'll be
hey. Aloha.
Aloha. I was sorry that I caught this late.
Oh, it's cutting a little bit in and out, Lawrence.
Just saw it. That's excited that you're doing. Yeah, I've got phone reception in my office, but I was glad that I saw this. But I saw it like a little bit late, so I was like 15 minutes late on your.
Al, you're still good. We're only on the 3rd team, so you're all good, bro.
Yeah, I'm moving faster than Tom. Sorry, Tom, for knocking on you here, but I'm still not moving fast. So yeah, we're only on the 3rd team. So we were just reviewing Dennis's team. Lawrence, do you have any comments on Dennis's team before we move on? I will take that
I'm
as a
growing
no.
my hair long in the ponytail, so I was initially like not gonna have it on because my hair's all jacked up. But anyway,
I will move on to Bob's team.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I thought
Go ahead,
that
please.
Deshaun Watson was a great pick though because he's just so dominant of the quarterbacks, and then since they did go pretty quickly, but yeah, it seemed like it was a tricky draft though. I mean, it seemed like it was harder to do well in this draft than other ones I've been in for Battle Royale.
Well, we were having that discussion. Would Dennis, if he knew he could get Stafford in 2, right? Which to me, there's a drop off after Stafford. That was sort of a break point in QBs. If he knew he was going to get Stafford, would he have gone Watson? I mean, that's obviously with 2020 hindsight. That's an interesting question.
Right.
Because Stafford ended up going to Joe in the first pick of the 3rd round. We will move on to Bob.
Yeah, that was a nice spot to get him.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I thought that was a great pick for Joe. So Bob starts out with the Baltimore DB. So 2nd DB taken, 3rd in the 1st round overall. 3 went. Green Bay went with Tyke at 11. So Baltimore DBs, and then went D-line, and then linebackers. So first 3 picks taken on D. And what did that yield for Bob? Let's take a look.
Didn't he get the excellent run?
He got good run.
Oh, okay.
Average pass.
Wow.
So may have been hoping for a bit more, knowing somebody behind him. Brian did get excellent, right? But nonetheless, it's certainly it's hard to get ratings. You really had to work for him, and he ends up good average. O-line doesn't go skill position until round 5, getting the Tampa wide receivers. Then Jack's halfbacks with James Robinson. Giants tight ends ends up with Murray at quarterback for Arizona. So Murray and Robinson, yeah. I mean, as far as the offensive rakes, I mean, you look at the battery, as I like to call it, of quarterback and halfback. It's not as you'd expect drafting these positions, not toward the top. So gonna have to manufacture some points between the two. It's true for anybody though in this set. If you keep your opponent guessing wrong, you'll be okay. And there's Lawrence again. Hey, Lawrence. So a little bit offensively challenged, I would say overall, Butch, but obviously a solid D.
Yeah, I think he's and again, I can't remember playing Bob too much, so I'm not sure about how he coaches, but I'm sure, like I said, in this league, everybody's a good coach. So,
well, with Bob, yeah, I'm with you. And what Bob picked up there, hidden in his selections is that he has a very good pass rushing defensive line and 2 11s at linebacker, I believe, on Denver pass rush, right? So, I love 11s. I think all of us love 11s. We'd much rather have an 11 than a 12-star one for the most part. So if you plan on blitzing your safety, that can be a very annoying and disruptive asterisk to have on your squad. So, it's sort of a nice laid out. He does have some low asterisks on his defensive line, I believe, with the Rams. But that's a very good pass rush for his good average. So his average is better than average because of the pass rush. I mean, the average pass D because of the pass rush he has. Sean goes Rodgers. I can't argue with that pick.
Kind of surprised he was still there, but yeah, no, I couldn't argue with that either.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was kind of surprised he was there too. To me, the 3 sort of gimmies in this first 5 picks are the 3 offensive guys. Obviously I picked defense very high before. I did last year in summer sprint. Passed on the KC halfbacks and with the Denver linebackers, right? So I'm not offensively biased, but to me, Rodgers, Watson, and Henry stood far above the rest of the offensive weapons out there. So for Sean to grab him at 5, I think was a real boon. a real boon for the squad. And he's stuck with offense. We didn't touch defense the 6th round here with the Chicago DBs, which was among the last group. You might think 6th round isn't that late. Oh, it was late for DBs. Chicago DBs were 16th overall, despite being 6th round. Only Tampa and Washington went behind them. At linebacker and D line at the end. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he paid for that in his ratings, though, because I think he's the only poor.
Indeed, poor. Does he get a pass rush with that?
Yeah, he's gonna be playing shootouts, I think. So I think that's the plan there with Rodgers.
Yeah, KC linebackers, I believe, do not have big pass rush, nor does the Seattle defensive line. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but pretty sure they do not. So it's going to be defensively challenged. Yeah, shootouts is right, Butch. I'm with you there. Atlanta tight ends, Jacksonville special teams. That's a best. One of the best punt returners in the set. Picked up a little bit more receiving talent there. What do you think about that Houston pick in the 4th round?
Third overall. I guess there's your long pass, guys. I think that's what he saw,
Yep.
And that's what he was looking at. So I mean, to pair with Rodgers, I don't know. I mean, that's not too shabby.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know if anybody's going to be playing run against him that much. I can't. Who was his running back again?
Running back is the Rams. So
they're all right.
Yeah, they're an upper echelon, not top tier.
Yeah, but they're also good in the flats too. So he'll have those, to throw to as well to try to keep the pass rush honest.
Yeah. Fuller has an amazing card, as I'm concerned. Anyway, one of the best out there. Long gains everywhere. Long gain in 7. Yeah, I could. It's worth reaching for Fuller and Cooks. I'm with you there. Any thoughts, Lawrence, before we move on to Brian? Brian went with the Ravens halfbacks. Famously, these first 3 Ravens picks here. Ravens halfbacks to start. When I got 13, I didn't think I'd have a chance at them, so I didn't go deep on them. But obviously they're well known anyway. Obviously, a group of very, very good halfbacks here to choose from. As we take a look at this first round pick, Dobbins. Great guessed wrong, not so much guessed right. Gus Edwards is really where it's at here. You get 2, 3, and 4 guessed right on 6, 7, 8 off tackle. That's among the best in the set, I believe, on off tackle right yardage. And wrong, if there's, go ahead.
If you pair these guys with a good QB, it's going to be an awesome team. I can't remember who his QB is, but yeah, if everybody's going to go out there and just guess run, then it might shut them down somewhat.
Ingram has a nice card guessed right as well, up there toward the top. There's only one home run threat here, right? And that's, if I'm not mistaken, let me see, Justice Hill, what's he doing? Yeah, so they're a little bit long inhibited, but Dobbins has the 72. And that's something I'm always looking for too. Is there a guy in the squad I can put in the last 2 minutes of the first half and play some strap ball and try to induce a guest run call from my opponent, right? Scared of the long gains on my halfback card. And then Dobbins is going to have to be the guy to do it here for Baltimore. But a great group of running backs, and I don't know if any of them are taking advantage of our low usage rules or not. Let's see. Dobbins is not. Justice Hill does. So Justice Hill's card is the bonus card, if you will. Not much there.
And they're not the Baltimore group doesn't really scare anybody as receivers. So I mean they're pretty much runners only. So
he pairs it with Rivers, who's a capable quarterback this year.
That's true.
Hard for me to get over the fact that his long pass interception isn't crazy. I'm just convinced that that's what he has because we've seen it for a decade. But it's really not half bad. Not great, but not 2 through 7, 11, 12. Okay. Right down the middle. Good 3-column passer. Not great, but good 3-column passer. Double team on 7 for short pass.
He was actually on my list, and I think went just before I was going to pick a quarterback. So,
yeah. I mean, to me, Indianapolis is the best carded team in the AFC as far as stock leagues are concerned, and a lot of it has to do with Rivers' quarterback card that can make you pay when you're focused on Taylor, and obviously a very, very good defense too. I projecting the cards out last summer, I didn't see Rivers having a card quite like this. So not a bad quarterback at all. Arizona wide receivers are a little bit long pass challenged, for sure, but very good flat pass and short. Green Bay tight ends bring some interesting versatility. And then last round was KP. So defense for Brian, as we saw a moment ago, he got the excellent run D. Average pass. So if I'm not mistaken, is there one good in the set among us? Did anybody get good? No good goods. Therefore, this is the best rated D is Brian's in the set with excellent average. So running and defense and a pretty decent quarterback. These receivers are not going to make you pay like other squads can make you pay. They'll pick up the 27 yards really nicely. I think Hopkins has 27 or whatever it is on his 7 long pass right and double teamed for what it's worth on the long chance that ever shows up. But they don't have long gains on 7. That's for sure. But with that D and that halfback crew, it's going to be a grinded out squad for Brian. Michael goes with Mahomes with the number 1 pick. And on Summer Sprint, I openly questioned Michael's Dallas halfback, Tony Dorsett, selection in round 2. And I don't like to openly question anybody's picks, honestly, but we have to do something here in terms of provide some analysis. We can't say everybody did great or it gets kind of boring. This one was interesting to me, and it was interesting to me just purely out of Mahomes' his fumble rating.
if you can put up with that, though, you got Mahomes. So I mean, that's the one drawback. But you're right. But he's got a good card still.
And for sure. And I had a Herbert above Mahomes and Allen as well for that reason, just because of the 0 fumble that Herbert gives you. I didn't expect to see him go at 7. I thought there was going to be a bunch down here, and I thought the guys down here somewhere in this 11 to 16 range would end up with Mahomes and having to bite the bullet on that fumble. Obviously, Mahomes comes with a very strong card across the board. His, in this set, it's muted in leagues that have Yak turned on. One of the best features of Mahomes' card is this 7 guessed right without Yak for 7 yards. Here, we have no Yak, doesn't come into play, so it's not as much of a marginal advantage as it is in Yak rule sets. But that, to me, is one big difference maker versus a Herbert, for example, who has a -1, I believe, on that 7 guessed right Yak. So despite Mahomes having a reputation for not having a great flat pass column, this to me was the great equalizer. That 7-on-7 guessed right without Yak. Again, kind of muted here. Decent must run. He'll get you a first down on 3rd and 5. Plenty of completions. The classic setup for this card set of 8-10 long pass right. Follows it up with the New England halfbacks, a crew that I love, but again, a little bit long run challenged. I'm a big fan of Burkhead. Big fan of all these backs. I mean, there's just 3 really strong backs, and James White's kind of sneaky too. Harris obviously has the best card among these guys. You see there, not particularly good at right running, but there's better. Burkhead is better, for example. But overall, this is your lead card.
Yeah, and paired with Mahomes, he might get a lot of pass calls as well. So.
Mm-hmm. There's Michelle. Nothing to sneeze at. And then here's the interesting card of Burkhead, who does give you that right running, does not give you nearly the short gains that Harris gives you. One thing I love about Burkhead's card is his end run right column. Most every halfback in the set not only gives you a 5 guessed right for big negative yard, but there's another big negative yard down here on 8-9. He has a loss of 1 on 7, but there's not 2 chances for a big loss in this 6 through 10 range. Most every other halfback has it. So you can sort of run with more confidence Burkhead end run when you have favorable matchups, maybe a weak defensive end, good offensive line matchups with Burkhead end run. Perhaps the one of the few in the set where you're not sort of closing your eyes and hoping you don't hit that 9 for -5 or -4. Great off tackle, right, 3 and 2 yards there. And then linebuck wrong is nice and chunky too, and he can catch. Very good. He's a 4 pass block and gets you some flat pass right catching. So got to distribute the ball. You got to pay attention. A lot of subs when you're manning this halfback crew, but there's 3 really good ones there. The KCD line gives you those 2 6s at the tackles and pass rush. So solid defensive line. It was the 5th overall taken in the 3rd round, behind Baltimore, ahead of the Giants. Then went Miami DB, which again was a 4th round pick, but despite being a 4th round pick, was the 11th overall taken. Buffalo linebackers, Indy tight ends. You're picking up Mo Alley Cox and a 6 blocker as well. So you get two decent guys. I think there's a 3rd one there of value as well. Miami special teams, you get Grant, and the Indy wide receivers are so-so, as they should be for a 10th round selection. So the pass catchers here, all Indy all the time, as far as pass catchers are concerned. Not the team known for being great pass catchers. The best one in the group is who? It's got to be Hilton, and I think he was ranked 50 something or so overall. I probably have this all jumbled up. Yeah, I do.
Down year for Hilton for sure.
Yeah. So the receivers are a little bit on the weaker side. Defense for Michael ends up good at average, so very strong D. So any question marks that we might have about the receivers and the lack of huge gains on the run cards can sort of be offset by a good up-the-gut pass rush by the KC defensive lineman and a good average D. Any more thoughts on Michael's team? Let's take it to Willie, who went with Kamara. So there he's faced with a great, I think one of the better decisions out there, right? Saints or Browns? Who do you got, Butch?
I'd be having Mr. Chubb in my backfield, I'm afraid.
He does scare the shit out of most of us, doesn't he? Having him back there.
Yeah, I have Chubb in a couple different leagues, and he produces. He does.
Yeah. It's not like last year's card, right? Which would make you bang the table in anger, I imagine.
Last year he had that bookend card. This year he's got some good stuff in the middle. So
exactly. I think. Were you in Battle Royale last year? You were, right?
I believe. Yeah, I was. I think I sucked, but I was in it.
Yeah, I think Chubb was paired with Kyler Murray. I forget which team had it, but I remember the game. I just guessed past. Yeah, I said, okay, well, if he's going to hit something on the outside, I got to take the brunt of it. He did not scare you into run calls because of the lack of 6, 7, 8 running. Let's go look at Chubb here instead of Kamara.
This year's going to be different.
This year is definitely different. Look at that. So you've got action. You got action in the high percentage rolls, and you've got action on the fringes. Big time action. 4 across the board, guessed wrong. Very Earl Campbell like. Better card than Campbell 78, that's for sure. Gets keyed yards. Doesn't pull in an elevated way. And catch a lick. Other people can do that when you have a run card like this. And then it comes with Kareem Hunt too. Kareem Hunt, his value I think is among all the running backs out there. I brought his value down because of our low usage rule. There's a lot of guys like him out there that fall under that 65 carry threshold. Obviously, he's still good, and I'm sure he's thrilled to have him on the squad. But he's not going to get you long gains, and the short gains are great, no doubt about it. There's just a lot of guys out there like it. You take this squad because of Chubb. If we were running with different rule set with low yardage containment, then all of a sudden, boom, Hunt increases the value of the squad to me and thrusts them up 3-4 spots in this draft. But in this case, you're going primarily for Chubb. Now, that's what Willie turned down. What did he get? Well, he certainly got a better pass catcher. Take a quick look there. No doubt about that. He can annoy you with some, if you're on the defense, with some third down catches flat to get 9 yards. And then not a massive breakaway threat. Not really the guy you want toward halftime to hit you a home run. But very, very good right running, top short gains on all 3 levels. Big advantage. When you picked halfbacks, when I did further down the draft, others like me, you're picking your halfbacks almost based on what your offensive line is like, because you're not going to get 3 columns from a lot of those halfbacks down at the later rounds. Well, Kamara gives you 3 columns, and you can pick any offensive line and end up with a pretty good pairing. Behind him is Latavius Murray. And a very, very good card as well.
Yeah, really good card guessed wrong. So
Willie follows that up with Travis Kelce. That was a bit early for Kelce. Obviously, he brings double team receptions. You get Anthony Sherman as well, so you get some blocking help. The second tight end isn't worth anything. And Kaiser. But there's Kelce's card. But there are better long pass catchers out there, although, he's right there toward the top because he is 4 and 5. There are a bunch of guys with completions on 7. Right. Kelce's not among that group. That early, I want a long pass column that I love too. He does not give you the flexibility of moving to blocking back, right? Which is a big consideration, I think, as well, when taking your fullback tight end group early. Do you get the diversification of formations? Can you avoid going 3 wide and essentially be 3 wide anyway, right? Because you're running blocking back, because you have that talent at blocking back and tight end to feel like a 3 or 4 wide, but not take that hit on your run card with the 1 die. Doesn't give you that, but does give you a great pass card, receiving card, obviously flat and short, pretty much the best out there. Continuing on, next goes Giants D-line, Vegas linebackers, Seattle's wide receivers.
the Seattle wide receiver, I think, was a good pick. I didn't quite get Vegas linebackers. I think there was better sets left, but I think getting Seattle's wide receivers there was pretty good. They don't have a great third receiver, but their front 2 are pretty good.
Front 2 are pretty good. I mean, I didn't have them ranked that high at that selection, and I was hoping to grab them later. I thought they might push down, but yeah, I mean, you look at the top guy. I mean, he's obviously one of the best out there. Looking at the Las Vegas linebackers, as you point out, where are they? Vegas. Am I going blind here? Vegas. Where are you? There you are. And you should be a 3-4. Where the hell are they? All right, let's just look at them down here. Yep. Yeah, there's some weaknesses there. Get some pass rush, though, I think. No pass rush. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that was just kind of a mystery pick to me.
Mm-hmm. Broke the seal on quarterback. Pretty sure that you can check it right here. This you had that break point, yeah, from Detroit to Atlanta, right? So you had a pick that was third round, first pick with Stafford, and then we had a break with quarterbacks all the way to Willie's pick here in the middle of the sixth. So broke the seal and then drove a few quarterback picks because of that. So there's some dominoes fell, and then you had the Rivers selection, two picks later. Ryan is a vintage Ryan card, right? We can almost these last 10 years or so, you can almost put together Ryan's card without even thinking about it, what it sort of looks like. There you go. Slightly elevated INTs. Not a great long pass, but a good long pass, good short pass, very good flat pass. It's a solid card. Solid passer. Special team for Vegas. There he picks up Ruggs to join the Seattle wide receivers. The Washington O-line. Hold on here. Welcome, Sean. It shows you're on mute, Sean, just so you know. Then Tampa Bay DBs and finished out with Washington kick punt. So Willie gives us average, which is keeping up with the Joneses. So good D, not behind the curve on D. Kamara's got to lead the way. Ryan can do damage, and obviously there's a balanced offense there and a balanced D. So no reason Willie can't get above 500 here. I would have liked to see somebody else go in the second. He could have had a really strong team. I think you could have got Kelsey a little bit later. Lawrence, if you are there, I think you are. Why don't you take us through?
Yeah, I wanted to get a running back squad that had a home run hitter. I wanted somebody to be afraid of long gains, and I like the Chubb card as you're discussing because it's like really solid all the way through with the short gains, long gains, everything. And then I didn't really want to take a quarterback in the second round. I was going to take like the Buffalo D or maybe even the 49er blocking back and tight end stuff. But I kind of liked Wilson's card with. I want to have a decent quarterback card to also make people fear the pass. And I really liked his must-run column.
Mm-hmm.
And he has so many must-runs. So it really kind of like makes his completion percentage even kind of better because his must-runs add so much extra value. And he has not as good as Stafford, but he has a pretty good guess wrong on the long pass of the 35%. So, I want him to be somewhat of a threat. And then I got the offensive line. I wanted like a good line to run behind.
That's a nice balanced line.
Yeah. So I like that balanced line with just that one negative part of like the 4 or 5 on the left guard. But I'm feeling comfortable that for run and pass protection there.
So first 3 were offense, then you went 2D.
Now the problem is I screwed up on when I got to Denver defense, I was still thinking it was an 18, not a 19, the original that was put out. I think when I went back, I actually reloaded his thing where here's the new spreadsheet, not the one like, oops, I put the wrong spreadsheet in. So it made my next pick, instead of taking like the Bears linebackers, I had to get either the Jets or the Chargers defensive line to be able to have average run if I had an 18 DB with the way the linebacking thing was going to go. So I felt like I was a little bit limited because I was just looking at all the options of the linebacking cores and the defensive lines that could get me average on both was somewhat limited already. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't as limited because I understated the value of the Denver DB, so more linebacker groups were playing for me than I realized.
Mm-hmm. Pit wide, you had a number of choices there. Let's see. Pit went 12th. Behind it was Cleveland, Arizona, Rams. So not great choices behind. So I guess that makes sense. I had them right in that group as well.
I was tempted to take the Indy tight end blocking back at that point, and I forgot kind of about the low usage thing. That would have put me over. But I was concerned about the other wide receiver groups. But what I liked about the Pittsburgh wide receiver group is, you have Schuster and Johnson. They both have maxed out on the flat pass, and so they're down a little bit on the medium, and then they're okay long. And then the third wide receiver, Claypool, is pretty good, and he's pretty good long. So I wanted to have, that where people have to respect the pass and the run. And I felt like I was looking at the Rams, and they had such a minimal long pass, you wouldn't even really need to worry about calling long that much.
Very true. Went with the Washington tight end group. What brought you to them?
Again, I liked Logan Thomas with the maxed out flat pass again.
Mm-hmm.
It's still like one of the better tight end cards. I prefer to have, the other thing there is I prefer to have a fullback so that I can put him in a pro set if I want to avoid somebody being keyed in a certain situation.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can get a fullback instead of a blocking back, I like to have that extra run option if needed.
Mm-hmm. Did you consider New England there?
Yeah, I did, but I looked before. When I looked at Jacoby Myers' card, I wasn't that impressed with it. Maybe I was underestimating it, and I'd kind of forgotten about him by then.
Yeah, I like him at blocking back. It's just nice to have that long pass blocking back threat there. But the one thing they don't give you, I believe, I don't think New England gives you any fullback presence worth noting at all, to your point.
Right, and I like to have a fullback.
Yep.
Go ahead and be critical, though, because I'm fine with whatever comments, Like you say, it's not fun if you like to saying everything good job.
Yep. And the Miami linebackers bring you some pass rush, don't they?
Yeah, that's why I grabbed them, and they weren't on that list. I happened to be Joe had actually sent out that league file, and then I was going through the league file, and I kind of discovered them in there, and it kind of compensated for a lack of pass rush because I love that it's a 4-4-9, 4-4-10, 4-4-8, or 4. The last one is a 0-5-8, but my Chargers defensive line is a 6 and a 5 on the left, so I'd be wanting to plug the 0-5 on the right, where I have a 0 fairly often, and then I have that pass rush, and I especially like having a 10 inside pass rush if I get somebody with the pad guards and center and all that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's the best left inside linebacker pass rush in the set, I believe. And to me, that's a huge advantage. You do face a lot of two tight end sets in the game. For a lot of reasons. Yeah, you can double team with that left inside linebacker that you're the strong side tight end, but for the most part, you're never going to get coverage responsibility out of that guy. So without coverage responsibility, huge advantage versus an outside linebacker. Blitz away. Do whatever you need to do with him.
Yeah. So I felt pretty good about getting them that late.
Yeah.
Then I almost made another mistake. I keep forgetting when I look at I was looking at the kickers, and I was looking at coverage, and I was looking at DEN thinking it was Denver, not Detroit National. And I almost was going to take McManus until I realized, wait, that's Detroit National. And then I saw McManus, the coverage was so bad, that it would be really negate those occasional 58-yard field goal attempt, with the 72% that you might have. So I was like, it was just so awful that it's just obviously too much of a risk. And the long gains for both kick return and punt return on top of other big numbers, it was just untenable.
Totally agree. I think a lot of us went through that process of getting enamored with McManus for 3 seconds and then stumbling on this monstrosity of 21 on 7 punt return. Oof, 8-14. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I was the first one to take a kicker. Yep, with Miami's unit, and they're not perfect. They have some flaws, but Denver was in the mix with Atlanta. Those are really the three I was looking at, and Denver was the first one for me to take off the list as well. So I sort of went through the same process as you did there. Yeah. And you end up with an average D. So when you pair that with Wilson and Chubb, that means you're right in the mix.
Yeah, you're going to have a good team. I think you'll be able to have a good run, Lawrence. So be nice when you play me, okay?
Just don't guess wrong, Butch. Okay.
So
now you compare that, right? And Aiden is up next, right? To Allen, Philadelphia, right? And I like Aiden's squad a lot, but Lawrence, I do like yours better. You know, as far as that battery goes, I think you got some Allen fumbles to worry about, and you have some Eagles fumbles to worry about.
That's a lot of Eagles fumbles. 4, aren't they?
Yeah, those guys. I think both Scott. We'll take a look right here. Both Scott, as far as their individual fumble ratings go. Philadelphia, Sanders at 2.44, and then Boston Scott is at 2.5. So that's some.
Yeah, and like we already talked about, the Rams receivers. Nobody's going to be afraid they're going deep on you. So.
And of course, Josh Allen has a really good card, and these guys are home run hitters when they hit it. Obviously,
I didn't like Allen's card. I thought about Allen too, but that 4 fumble for, I think he has a 4, doesn't he? Buffalo quarterback.
4, yeah.
I think he's a meeting, so I just really try to avoid that. I remember having Colt McCoy a few years ago in like a battle royale, and he was actually a pretty good card itself, except he was like fumbling constantly. It was like science fiction of how much he was fumbling.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm very fumble averse myself. There's a Sanders card. Beautiful end run wrong column. I got that 1 thrown in there on 8. Guessed wrong, but obviously a pretty big threat. And he does it on all 3 columns. 74 on 11. You know, I mean that's extraordinary.
Yeah, it's going to keep you honest on defense.
Yeah, I'm pressing my history knowledge here. Is that the longest gain on a non-212? If he's putting long gains aside, I can't think of one on a running card that's as long as 74 on a non-212. That's scary. And there's Boston Scott. Sort of fits into that Kareem Hunt mold a little bit. Not quite as strong, but certainly a good number 2 back. Plenty of carries there. Beyond the battery, he went to New England DBs next. So DB and linebacker next. And that gave him an average pass D. Defensive line was not until 9, and that yielded the poor run D. Miami tight end Jasecki can catch the long ball. Not much blocking help or sort of intangibles. You get a really nice long pass tight end to complement, as you mentioned, Butch, receivers that are not particularly long pass heavy. And the New England O-line is a pretty strong one. Any thoughts on Aiden before we move on to Tyke? Green Bay DBs. 3rd in the set. Linebackers were taken in the 3rd round, Seattle. And that gave him average, but to manage good run by getting which D-line? Pittsburgh, 1 round later. So good average. He's above the curve on defense. Didn't take a major skill position or a battery position until round 7. So the battery is the Dallas Prescott and the Washington halfbacks. So in this set, the worst quarterback. I mean, this is not 1978, right? So when you get Dak Prescott's card as the second to last quarterback taken, that's a pretty good quarterback. There's a reason he's
His
down
long
there,
pass,
though.
his long pass is so low.
Yep. Let's take a look.
Yeah, his long pass is pretty bad. I mean, I can't speak because my long pass is almost non-existent, but his is pretty bad.
Must run is average. It's not bad by any stretch. A lot of those. A lot of chances on the must run. Long pass. The interceptions 2 through 6, 11, 12. So you can throw it with confidence. I mean, you don't have to be. Again, this is not 1978 where you'd have a couple interceptions, automatics dotted on the second to last quarterback's long pass right column. So you can.
Doesn't he have a fumble pretty low on the must run? I thought I couldn't remember.
Let's see his fumbles. Let's see how I had him rated on fumble. Stand by. Sort of go out to my individual ratings here.
I just thought the fumble chance was like an 8 or a 9 on his must run.
His fumble is elevated. It's not as bad as a Derek Carr. I'm talking about snap fumbles all in, sort of taking in all of his fumbles. It's an elevated fumble. It's not looking at the team fumble, though. The team fumble for Dallas is all important, especially if you're not throwing long. If you're throwing flat, if you're throwing flat, you gotta pay attention to your quarterback's fumble rating or your dead meat. It's a 0, so that's helpful. So interesting, right? I mean, you talk about the different strategies in this draft. I mean, you don't see much white and red down low. Most everybody's white and red is up here, right? I mean, look at all that white red. Tyke went the other way, saved up on his battery till later, and loaded up on other things. We talked about the San Francisco tight end pick earlier and how Juszczyk's fumble scares the bejesus out of me, which would have pushed that down a couple rounds in my mind. Without that fumble, it's a first-round pick as far as I'm concerned. Toward the end of the first, depending on how things played out. Because you get the 7-6, you get a good running fullback, you get 6-7 blocking, get the good running fullback, a good pass catching fullback, and then you get Kittle, which really changes the dynamic of an offense. But I'm afraid to run Juszczyk. I'm just afraid of it. Call me a scaredy cat. Any more comments on Tyke? All right, Butch, take us through.
Well, not much to take you through. I think I suck, but I was starting to breathe heavy when Chubb was dropping, and then Lawrence jumped in there and grabbed him. We were talking earlier, Anthony, about Dennis's 2 picks. His other pick was Tampa linebackers. And looking at the linebackers, I thought the Tampa linebackers were elite. They were really, I think they stood hands above the rest. So it was tough for me to pass on Herbert and on my Badger, Jonathan Taylor, but I went with the linebackers. I said I wanted to try to build a pass rush this year and see what I could do. So I went with the Tampa Bay linebackers. I mean, they got good numbers. They got a good set. They can pass rush, and I think they're going to help out. They'll be all right. And once I decided not to take Herbert, quarterback was kind of off the board for me. I thought about Breeze, but he went right before me. So then I just said, screw it. I'll let the draft decide what QB I take. So I went defense top 3, Tampa linebackers, Buffalo DBs, and Cleveland's DL, which the Cleveland DL with Tampa Bay linebackers gives me a nice pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got that. And then I wanted to get a good O-line in Tennessee. I thought was probably the most balanced left. So I decided to do that. just to grab that. Uh, that pick in the fifth round, I took the Dallas wide receivers. I was really toying with taking the KC returners there, just to get the two speedsters that can return. But Dallas's receivers weren't a bad choice, and they're pretty good. I think, at least three deep, maybe four deep if you count Wilson, and they're kind of good all across the board. So I did do that, and then the last running back set that had that home run hitter, and believe it or not, that home run hitter was Melvin Gordon. But I went ahead and took Denver's halfbacks, getting Gordon and also Lindsey. Lindsey has a nice end run column,
Hmm.
so hopefully that'll keep some people honest. I took DeVerney for my special teams, my kick returner, and he can catch a little bit. And the next three picks, I'm not going to take credit for, or I'm not going to take the blame for. I was actually in the car for 7 hours when I made those picks. I was driving home. I took the Buffalo kick punter unit. I didn't even look at their coverage. I'll be honest with you. They could have horrible coverage.
Great kickoff coverage. I could tell you 10, 11, 12, I believe. So you got that right.
Good.
I'm not sure about the punt.
Yeah, and then I needed a tight end left. I decided to go with Fat Noah Faint
Hmm.
from Denver. So, and I got Van Ett and Albert, whatever his last name is, to go with him. And then quarterback. I'm sitting here going, okay, Lamar Jackson, no. And then I'm thinking about Kyle Allen or Big Ben, and Kyle Allen has a really good flat and short card.
Yeah, sure does.
So, and like you said, he's not going to hurt you with picks on the long pass card, and hopefully everybody's going to be flooding the flat zones, and maybe I can get Michael Gallup deep sometime there. You never know.
You can make a living. You can make a living off if the free safety starts moving because they don't respect Allen's long pass. I mean, look out. I mean, there's opportunities there for big ones.
And I think I haven't looked at him in a while, but I think, like I said, Gallup's got a good long pass card.
Yep.
And Cooper's not horrible. So
that's an amazing quarterback. Quarterback of the draft.
Yeah. Like I said, I should have, in hindsight, I maybe should have taken Jonathan Taylor, but then that would have turned my whole draft around from defense to offense. So, and I don't know who I would have got a quarterback in the second round if I went with Herbert. I mean, I could have got Wilson, I guess. Took Wilson from you, Lawrence, but that it just.
Like Wilson that much, huh?
I'm sorry.
You don't really like Wilson that much, though, right?
I do like Wilson a lot, but I really like pass rush better. So,
looking at your draft too, I was thinking I think the way to go really, unless you have like a DB with a bunch of sixes in there, is it's really nice to get a really strong linebacking group. If you get the very best one, it gives you so many options.
Yeah.
For the other.
Yeah, and I was even though they got fours on the outside, they can both rush, and that to me was the best linebacking unit in there, and that's what Dennis called me about. He said, "Should I take Watson or the Tampa Bay linebackers?" And I kind of said, "Crap! I didn't think anybody else was looking at the Tampa Bay linebackers." So probably too early, but paired with the Cleveland D line, I think they'll be okay. Hopefully, we'll put some pass rush on somebody.
Keep talking, Butch. I have a phone call coming in.
Oh, I ain't got much more to say. I am a Badger, so Jonathan Taylor was really hard to pass on. I mean, he's got another home run card. His card and Nick Chubb's card are very similar. I think Taylor may fumble a little bit more, and he has more carries, but in this league that doesn't matter because we don't have the limits. But and I got a good. Yep, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I got a good run defense, average pass, which in this league is pretty good, I guess. So I'll take what I got and see what I can do. I don't know how I'm going to play out, but
what is Allen's fumbles? That's something I don't know. How's his snap fumble? Okay.
Who's that? I'm sorry.
How's Allen's snap fumble? Okay.
I never even looked. I was in the car when I made that pick. I was on the phone with Dennis. but I don't think it was bad. I know his picks are low, so
Right.
I'm pretty sure. But let me see. Let me open that up. Oh, I have it open. Yeah, he got.
I
You
like
know, he's.
Taylor's card too. I thought the center of it wasn't as good as like Chubb's,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
that's where it kind of put me off. Although a pick that came later that was I think a good pick was a late pick getting Jacksonville's running backs. 'Cause
Yeah,
I ran Robinson for over 2,000 yards in the last season,
yeah.
so it's actually a pretty effective card.
Yeah, that is a nice card. Is he limited on carries? I forget what his carries are. He had over 200, right?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure he did. Yeah.
yeah,
Let's see. What is his fumble rating? One.
that's good.
He had one fumble. Of course, he only had 80 some, but it's 60 some attempts or whatever. But in this league, that doesn't matter. So
Indeed, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I like your D, and the question whether Allen can produce. And
we'll see.
Gordon and Lindsey, especially Gordon, fumbles a bit. I
Yeah,
think he's 20 or so, or 21 on right, maybe
yeah,
13 on wrong. So that'll you'll pound the table once or twice this year on that. But if you can make those untimely as opposed to, or I guess timely fumbles as opposed to untimely.
yeah.
Uh,
Those those are those old days that we call dice throwers, man. When you get that fumble, you throw your dice across the room. That's back in the dice days.
So you and I were waiting on our halfbacks, right? And we were
Yep.
paired up with each other there, and so was Tyke. So the three of us were sort of joined. I decided to finally bite the bullet on the halfback, and you followed up right after
Yeah.
with Denver. For me, it was about my offensive line. I needed a good linebacker guy because I have a good sixth center. I think one of the weaknesses of the cards, the defensive cards, is you can make a living off your center if he's a six.
Right.
And that's, I mean, weaknesses meaning something you can take advantage of, right, in the cards.
Mhm.
So I needed a good linebacker runner. So I was really looking hard at Tampa because of Ronald Jones. But what's interesting is that as good as Zach Moss's off tackle is, his linebacker isn't half bad either. So that combined with Singletary's work on the end with Goddard as my sixth tight end, and having a couple good tight ends, that's why I ended up going Buffalo.
Yeah.
I thought Tampa would be taken earlier. They ended up going in the last round because Ronald Jones is a legit home run threat, and he also doesn't fumble. But the problem is Fournette just is not that good. If you
Yeah.
had a smidge better from Fournette, then that Tampa halfback crew just
Yeah.
goes up. With you get Gordon and Lindsey, and that's a
Yeah.
nice pairing. And
Yeah.
another bonus about Buffalo was the third halfback, is Antonio Williams, I think, who's a low carry guy, has I think 12 carries on the year, has short gains across on 7.
Yeah.
So you end up getting a bunch of carries. You're well into the 30s, upper 30s with Buffalo, who are not considered a high carry team, I think, for anybody in a stock league. But
Right.
in our league with this rule set, all of a sudden you end up with a 10 carries, which is what he had in the season per game from Antonio Williams. If you need those carries, if you have to go to the well.
Yeah. I don't know if it was my strategy or just the way this draft went, but usually in these drafts, somebody will come in and take my player right before I pick. I don't think that happened more than once or twice. And again, maybe my strategy sucked. I don't know, but that's just it seems the way it was. And it was a good draft. I enjoyed this draft. I really did. I wish I could have got, like I said, hindsight, should I have taken Herbert or Taylor? Well, Anthony, you'd be mad at me if I did. So it's all good.
And you do get that nice third back in Royce Freeman as well with Denver.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I went with Herbert. It was going to be QB for me at that point because I just did not like Dalvin Cook's fumble.
Yeah.
That took him off the table for me at that first round pick. So it came down to those three that I mentioned earlier, three QBs that had the most long pass right completions at that point, which was Herbert, Stafford, and Brady. Because I like a good long pass. I just see free safety and double teaming. Double teaming overall, I think, happens too much across the entire hobby. long pass, zero opportunities. Some teams go as low on a full stock season as 0.4 free safeties man in zone on average against the long pass. So you can get opportunities against a high double team defense. So I like to have a good long passer. Among those three, it's a pretty clear choice. I mean, Herbert's the guy among the other two being Brady and Stafford. So that was a relatively easy pick for me with Dalvin Cook taken off the table. Coming around, getting the Philly defensive line, at that point, I was thinking pass rush was going to be a pretty big factor for me, and I wanted that defensive line. I was looking at Indianapolis as well at that point, by the way, and they went much later. I thought it was a great pick for Nicholas because I like their pass rush too on the interior. So interior pass rush. Most of us look at our offensive lines and disregard our guards' pass rush, and it's for good reason, right? I mean, they just don't come up that often. You're concerned mostly about defending against the ends pass rush, which is where you're going to find good end pass rush throughout the league. So, knowing that most of us sort of disregard, I mean, at times I have just taken, is it the right guard? Just taken them off and just looked at non-right guard offensive lines, right? And just rated the offensive lines that way, at least get that perspective. So wanted to take advantage of that with the Philly DL. Came back and got the Pittsburgh offensive line just to take the best pass blocking line off the table. So I knew I was going to be heading for a pass rush strategy D, knowing I had about a 60 or 65% chance of an average pass D. It was more likely than not that I was going to wind up average. Wanted to get that offensive line to take advantage, sort of double up on Philly's pass rush on the D line. That's why Pitt was taken there. Philly tight ends, that was sort of a wild card pick for me. It was sort of an opportunistic pick. I could have solidified the average D at that point, but I still thought, and it turned out to be a miscalculation, that I had a really good chance of getting a average pass D at that point, and went Philly tight end. But then the Atlanta linebackers went a few picks later, and that just started a linebacker defensive back avalanche in the third into the fourth, which took away it finally. I mean, brick by brick, my average pass D was taken away. Finally, Brian took the last brick away from me, taking the San Fran DBs. I think a lot of us that were looking at the average versus poor pass D had this little strategy in our back pocket, right? Which is the San Fran DBs and the Giants special teams, because you'd pull that four strong safety from the Giants special teams to plug into the San Francisco zero strong safety, and then boom, you wind up with an average pass D. But when he took San Francisco there, that was eliminated. So plan B had to be fully activated at that point, which is, all right, guns a-blazing on pass rush. Here we go. So with the Philly D and the Pitt linebacker crew, I've never had this much pass rush in my life. I don't know how it's going to go. I just know it's going to be a blitz fest. It's going to be interesting. I think a lot of teams will try to run against me as a result, because I'm going to be trying to take advantage of that pass rush, and I can't do it if I'm guessing run. So, of course, I know that, right? So it's the great strategy of strat, right? People think they're going to run against me because I'm going to guess pass all the time, because that pass rush is useless when I guess run. But I know that walking in. We already talked about the Buffalo halfbacks. At the point the Miami kickers came up, it was the first kicker taken off the board. It seemed like the right time. It turned out to be the right pick. I had wide receivers that I liked and could settle with. I had Brian, who was going to take one in front of me if I didn't take who I wanted at that point, and I wanted Detroit. But I was willing to take the chance of him taking Detroit by getting the best, what I saw as the best kicker punter set on the field. I smell the kicker run coming, and if I didn't grab it there, then in one of these two picks here in the 7th or 8th, and I wasn't going to get one. So I grabbed it. It worked out. There was a kicker run that turned out right afterwards. I still got the wide receiver group I wanted, which was wanted at this point, settling for a lesser wide receiver group, which gives me three long pass threats, which is what I was sort of looking for out of those guys. Buffalo was no master strategy behind the Buffalo special teams pick, which is the best of what was left. And the Washington DBs I liked because of the zero free safety. All of the points are on the other guys. If I'm going to be blitzing as much as I plan on blitzing, my DB is going to be up on the line of scrimmage more often than most other teams will have them up there. So you may as well have your 0 at free safety. So both the Washington defense and the Cleveland defensive backs filled that sort of role. And turned out Washington was still there at the end, thankfully. So it sort of mitigates that 0 free safety given how much time he's going to spend up on the line of scrimmage. Overall, end up average and poor. People are going to try to take advantage of that poor pass D. I honestly don't know, guys. I haven't run the numbers. It's a pretty complex calculation to figure out if all that pass rush, which is at historic levels for me anyway, is enough to compensate to make that poor pass D effectively average or better. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I think either way, it's going to be feast or famine for the Rochester Jeffersons defense.
I had Philly's D line number 1. If
Mhm.
you had taken him there, I was going to take him instead of Buffalo's DBs. And if I had known that Indy's D line was going to last that long, I probably wouldn't take Cleveland in the third. But I do like Cleveland, but Philly was my number 1 D line.
Yep. So it's very interesting how it turned out. I mean, a pretty fun draft.
Yeah.
Ken was next. Unless any more comments on the Jeffersons.
I was gonna say, yeah, I went and messaged you when you took the Philly D line because I was like, oh man, I love that unit, and they were high up on my list as well.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm gonna go 3-4, which is gonna effectively give me one more point of pass rush on that Philly D line, right? If I play 4-3, so if I declare a 3-4 D and then go 4-3, then they all get an upgrade of 1 point across the board. Of course, the downside is my 6 turns into a 5, the defensive left tackle, but the right tackle is a 0, so you don't lose anything there. It's sort of like when I had the Chargers in the stock league. I'd run 3 wide, 2 running backs all the time because the entire line is full of 0 run blockers. You're not losing anything. You're not taking the penalty. So you'll see me run 3-4 and get even more pass rush from that Philly D line when I go 4-3, even though my base is 3-4. So 10 starts with Dalvin Cook. At some point, Dalvin had to go, right?
Yep.
Do you put him in front of Indy is the question. I don't. I think it's neck and neck. And I don't blame him for taking Dalvin. He's a home run hitter. He's gonna draw run calls for Breeze all day long. Taylor's card, interestingly, does not draw. It's the way it's constructed. It looks chunky. Its looks are a little deceiving. I think Taylor's card is better than it actually looks. But Cook's gonna get run calls, right?
Yeah. I would have gone Taylor over Cook. That's just me. I mean, I played Taylor in Strat 28 with basically Tua as my quarterback, and he was getting keyed and guessed run all day, and he got 1,800 yards from me. So I just like the kid, but Cook is not a bad pick. I mean, if you look at his offense, his he's got Cook and he's got Breeze and he's got the Charger receivers. Then he picked up Waller, and I was hoping Waller would drop to me, but he got Waller to boot. So, yeah, he's got some offense there. I mean, pretty scary offense.
Yeah. Cook is among the scarier out there, of course. He's the sort of guy that, if you have a 0 run linebacker and there's a few out there, on a 3rd and 6, you're running at him because you're not going to get the contain, and Cook's going to get you that first down on those 3rd and 7. So he's going to have people guessing. No different than Ron with Henry. He's going to have people guessing run on 3rd and 6.
Yeah.
And that's going to open it up for Breeze. I'm with you though, and I like Hines too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hines is an excellent specialist. Great right runner, great at the goal line, pretty good in other situations too when you have to bring him in. But he's one of the best right runners out there, and it's a great compliment to Taylor. In the full house, it's tough to stop those two.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but Ken's got a great offense. I think he's going to do well, and he's average. So,
yep, average. Those Charger wide receivers are awesome.
Yep,
I love that group. 4 deep threats, spread them out, and have a field day. And you add, and that was the one question I had about Waller. I mean, I don't. How often is he going to get in the field with this four? Is he 4 or 5 run block?
I think he's a 5.
Okay, that helps. That's going to get him on the field more because if he had 4, then boy, I'd rather have Tyron Johnson on the field, and Jalen Guyton than Waller. It's you would think maybe Tampa was a great value for Brian, I thought, out in round 6, and he went a couple picks ahead of Vegas, I believe here. I like Waller, just not a perfect fit. I think when you take the Chargers wide receivers at that point, as far as I was concerned, anyway, if I went there and I love that group, I was going to look for a more blocking oriented tight end group. The Miami DL, Detroit OL, Arizona special teams. So
I know you look at that defense and you say, how did he get average? Because it doesn't, nothing's jumping out at you really.
Yep.
Has he got average?
Vinny then, of course, gets the Indy halfbacks. Got to take him there.
Yep.
He had to be thinking he'd likely end up with one of these quarterbacks coming across, probably, and that didn't happen. And ends up with pit DBs. Vinny gets I got some Kung Fu photos here. Let's move up a bit. Okay, let's see. Vinny is average good.
He's got one of the few good passes. Yeah, good pass defense.
And did that by spending his second and third round pick. So a lot of guys went defense like that early and didn't get the good pass D. He did. So good on Vinny. And then stayed with defense. And as a result, with the New Orleans defensive line ends up with one of the better defensive ratings in the set. KC's wide receivers, we were all thinking about it, right? I mean, all of us were wondering, where do these guys go, right? We all considered it. I know we did, because Pringle's kickoff return is mint. What dissuaded me was Hardman's punt return. Yeah, of course you like the touchdown, but otherwise it's a fair catch-a-thon.
Exactly.
And that brought it down a couple rungs. But that being said, I think they went just fine in the 5th. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think he did okay. I mean, I'm sorry, I got somebody trying to trade with me for tomorrow's draft. Yeah, I like Vinny. I like his team. I mean, getting what he got and getting the good or the good pass, that was phenomenal. And he's not going to hurt. Burrows fumbles a little bit, but it's not going to hurt him that much.
Mm-hmm.
The KC wide receivers, like you said, he's got Tyreek Hill, whose card I've always thought Tyreek Hill could have a better card.
Absolutely.
But then he's got who was the other guy?
Hardman.
No, Demarcus Robinson. I liked his card. Yeah. Looking at that card, I really liked it a little bit.
Yeah. You'd want more from Watkins, and I totally agree on Tyreek Hill. How he doesn't have a long gain on 10 flat pass wrong. Let's pull it up. To me, is a crime. I mean, how many receivers have it? So many do, right? I mean, your average podunk wide receiver out there. I mean, take a look at the Chargers guys, right? I mean, the guys with 20 catches are getting a long gain on flat pass wrong 10, and you got to get a 3.
Yep.
I mean, long pass is mint, of course, but yeah, I agree he's a bit undercarded. I'm totally with you there. As great as the card is. Any other comments on Vinny's squad? Over to Brian. Derek Carr. Interesting pick here, right?
I think so, yeah.
As I mentioned before, I would have gone with Brady or Stafford just because of my personal preferences.
Yeah.
I have Carr in a draft league. He's doing great. He's got, let's bring him up here. Decent in all three columns. Interceptions are fine. Fumbles are a little bit elevated.
Yeah.
On the snap fumble, a little bit elevated. I think he's a 5, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. But there you go, 4 and 5 on long pass right. Must run, pretty decent. It's a solid passer, but I don't know that it's 16 worthy or not. I don't know. It's a tough one. He looks like a second round quarterback to me, but it's not like he wound up with the worst halfback group because of it, right? No halfbacks were taken after. And
Yeah.
then the Green Bay halfbacks, Jones can be a little frustrating. He's a little bit hit or miss.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick look at that group. There's 3, which is helpful. Not as good as last year's card, but boom, that long gain hangs out there. But then, of course, that -3 guessed wrong annoys the hell out of you. The no gain on 7 annoys you. -6 wrong on the dreaded 5
Yeah.
hurts. So you're calling this. You're only calling this toward halftime, and a few other desperate situations. If you need a first down, if you end up you're down 7 with 4 minutes left, 1st and 10 from backed up at your own 25, you're not calling
Yeah.
run on first down. You got to
Right.
go. You got to go here into the off tackle, and that's going to frustrate you a little bit with the 3-on-7, but not that bad. You're just not going to find a short gain in the middle there. You got to
Yeah.
get out to the 4. Of course, Jamal Williams comes with the package. Jones can catch, as we know. Williams, linebucker off tackle, stay away from the end run. One of
Indy's
those,
linebackers was an interesting pick there, I think.
and there's Williams. Yeah, let's take a look at Indy's linebackers. Yeah. What do you think about that? Go ahead.
I think they were an interesting pick there. I mean, I don't think this was a deep draft at linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
So Indy has a few good ones. So I think he's going to be all right. Misses maybe if we're going to call out misses. Chicago wide receiver. I'm not really crazy about that set at all. Tampa's D line. I think with the last pick that was probably all right, but again they're not super strong. They're getting a little long in the tooth.
Poor against the run, average against the pass is Brian. I love the Tampa Bay pick. I thought this was one of the best value picks. Tampa Bay tight ends.
Tampa's tight ends. I agree. I was talking about Tampa D line.
Yeah. I agree with you there, and I agree with you on the Tampa tight ends as well. To me, it was one of the best value picks in the draft.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of they got some depth there.
I did not have them far behind the Philly tight ends. It was sort of neck and neck, and I paid 2 rounds, above the price he paid for Philly, and he got 90% of that back with Tampa. That was just a great selection there. But yeah, poor run, and average pass, which is more important. So a good battery of Carr with the Green Bay halfbacks, but not top tier. So sort of middle of the road offense, slightly below defense, but a really good tight end group to compensate for those Chicago wide receivers that I'm with you on as well. Then anything else on Brian? Tannehill goes 17th overall, ahead of Brady.
Yeah.
I did not have him ranked that high. My rankings are different than most guys, though, in terms of.
No, I didn't have him ranked that high either. I would have taken Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford. I would have taken those before him right there.
Me too.
And that's just me, but
me too. Brady as well.
Yeah, I just have a problem taking Brady. Sorry.
Tannehill.
Maybe in the 8th round I would have taken him.
Tannehill gives you blanks on 5-10, flat pass right. Excellent short pass. Long pass is a notch below, right? A notch below the Stafford Brady group that he had a choice from. Very nice interceptions though, and a decent must run.
Yeah.
He goes New England DBs, one of the better groups out there, and then linebacker DL. So 2, 3, 4 defense gives them average and good. So pays off.
I think the Buffalo receivers there were probably a good pick. I mean, that's in the 6th round, that was a good pick up there.
Agree. Excellent pick. Picked up Isaiah McKenzie as punt returner with that.
Yep.
So check that box. Plus, you get a good group of receivers. But just going back to 2, 3, 4. Again, a lot of guys went defense early and often. Not everybody wound up with average good. And and there's only a few good pass defenses out there. He's got one of them, so you got to consider that a success when you're drafting 17th.
Yeah.
And I like the Tampa halfbacks last. I do.
I do too. They were on my list. I mean, I do. I like them as well, but I didn't wait that long for the halfbacks, unfortunately. So,
yep. I like them better than a few that were picked ahead. I like them better than Chicago.
yeah.
Like them better than Seattle. Like them better than Washington. Even I like them better than Jacksonville too. Ronald Jones will get you some run calls. Let's take a quick look at his card. He's got an end run 4 of 25, right? Plus the 98-yarder out there.
Yep.
Let's take a look. Yeah, 98 on 2, 25 on 4, 8 yards and 6 yards on 7 and 8.
Yeah.
5 yards on. I mean, that's a nice column. And no big, massive losses, of course, other than the 5 in the 6 through 10 range. So many other running backs have it. And he's a 3-column guy. He's got one of the better he's got a long line buck, long gain, right? I mean, the best guys have that, but he has it too in the last round. I mean, that's pretty nice.
Yep.
Anything else on Nicholas? Yeah.
No, I like that. I do like the Tampa pick for sure. That was a great value pick.
Yep. And then Brady, I like Brady there. I thought he got a better quarterback than the guys ahead of him. I know you don't, but sorry.
No, he's got a great card. I'm just not a fan of the man. How's that?
the Greg, in the 18th slot, sometimes you have to do this. I mean, it was definitely perhaps the most unorthodox draft. Do we all agree?
He's going offense heavy. I mean, Tampa quarterbacks, Atlanta receivers, Baltimore tight ends, and that's not going to be bad. And if I've played David Montgomery now for a season. He's got a tricky little card, guessed wrong, and
11 long gain.
Yeah, he's got an 11 long gain. He's got an 80 on a deuce, I think. Yep. So I mean, he's not going to hurt him. That's for sure. And he's a good receiver.
Yep. So, and 5 pass blocker as well.
Yeah. Yep. I think maybe I'm not sure what his defense ratings got.
Poor. So I mean, and remember AJ Brown came with the Tennessee special teams as well. So he's absolutely loaded at receiver. 2 of the best in the set, Ridley and Jones. Then he's got at blocking back, Mark Andrews can slot in a blocking back.
Yep.
And then how you get them all on the field is kind of an interesting question. But
he's got the fullback too. What's the guy's name from Baltimore?
Yeah, Ricard.
Yeah, isn't he a 6 blocker?
I think he's 5'6" this year.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
So I think he's going to give some defensive fits. I really do. So I'm not sure if he's going to stop a lot of people from scoring. I don't remember what he was. He's poor average. So yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 shootout teams in here, right?
He's poor. He's poor.
Yeah, poor. So Greg and Sean, I think Sean's on the line with us here. Those are our 2 shootout candidates by far, sitting on poor D's, but fantastic offenses.
Yeah.
And that being said, Sean's got the Rams halfback. Greg has Montgomery. At your point, Montgomery's going to pop a few. Just not much there in the second guy isn't that good. Cohen, and I think you got Patterson is going to have a much better card next year.
He's going to have to roll. He's going to have to roll the edges because I think a lot of people are going to be calling pass against him, and so he'll have the guest wrongs open, but he's just got to roll those edges on Montgomery to make them work.
Sean, since we have you on the line, any if you're there, if you can hear comments about your squad? If you're there, Sean. Going once, going twice. Sold. All right. Any universal comments, Butch?
No, what I was doing, I was looking at the draft, and I was trying to think of who I think was the best pick in the first round and who was the best pick in the last round. And I was just trying to go through that and see. And I'm looking at it, and I really have to say, Lawrence, I think you got the best value with Chubb at 9. I really like that pick. Chubb and Hunt, believe it. I mean, I think that was a great pick there. And I don't, I'm looking at it saying that had to be the pick. And then the best value in the last round. Wow. Uh, Even though I badmouthed them a little bit earlier, it, no, I didn't. I think Tampa's halfbacks.
Right.
I like that pick.
Yeah, I agree.
I
So
think Dennis got Minnesota's O line in the last round wasn't horrid, but I really like Tampa's halfbacks. So those would be the two my top first round and my top 10th round.
and before you gave your picks there, so I'm not piggybacking at all here. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I thought Lawrence's halfback pick at 9, I think, could have easily gone 7, as early as 7.
Oh,
Things
yeah.
would have worked out a little bit differently with the first and fourth pick. Easily could have gone top 4.
I think so too.
Yep.
I agree.
Yep.
You look at some of these guys that went defense, top 3 picks to get an average. That's kind of I don't understand that thing. I'm not going to call out names or anything, and I know this draft was hard to get good, but that if you're going to focus on that, you really got to get better than an average.
Yep.
I think. But
Lawrence,
that's just me.
Lawrence, any global comments?
Well, one thing I was going to say is, like, for me, it's hard for me to go super hard defense early because I've actually had some good luck if I have a good offense. So, like, I had like an SSFA team that had like a really, really bad offense, and I went my first 9 games, and Ed was like, "Oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. It's crazy." And then I saw it reinforced with Paul Makowitz when he had this Chargers team, and he had like no defense at all. He had even worse defense, and yet he was still winning a lot of games.
Yeah.
So I felt like really the quarterback halfback is pretty critical.
Yeah, I'm an offensive guy, but I think the most impressive championship that I've ever won in my 1,000 years of strat was the autumn wind season I won, and I only won because I had excellent. I mean, that's what did it. I think because Cutler was my QB, so it was the defense that ran that won that season for me.
Yeah, it just really wasn't on the table so much here. Only a couple teams.
Yep.
Bring good D's, and are they gonna? You got Nicholas. So not Nicholas, but who's the one with excellent? Yeah, so excellent average here. Yeah, that's excellent run, average pass. Would you rather have excellent run, average pass, or average run with good pass? I'd rather have average run with good pass.
Yeah, I agree.
And there are what, 1 or 2 average good?
I'm the other way around. I'm good average, but I'm kind of in the same boat with you, Anthony. We went the same way. I have an average pass, but I have a great pass rush, and I'm looking to offset it with that. I'm hoping anyway.
Yep.
So
I'm with you. That was the thought.
Remember.
I didn't want poor. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't planning on taking Pittsburgh, but that was the safety valve, right? Which is how are you going to get a good pass defense here? And if it's going to be so difficult, and you have to spend so much capital early in the draft to get it, is it really worth it for an average D, or do you try to load up on pass rush and try to find a hidden way to get an average or slightly better than average pass D, despite the fact that you don't have the rating?
Yeah.
Anthony, what do you think about how you're going to do with that poor pass D, given your whole team? I mean, you have like a lot of those positive things, but do you think you can overcome it to go deep into the playoffs?
Sorry, could you repeat that, Lawrence?
Say with your poor pass D, what do you think? Do you think you're going to be able to overcome it to go deep into the playoffs?
Well, we're going to find out. I think it's going to be feast or famine, right? I mean, there's some games, and I have the Chargers in a good stock league too. Won the AFC West with them, and in the game that I lost in the playoffs to Cleveland, it was one of those games where I had 45% pass rush opportunity after 45% pass rush opportunity that showed up. You hit the opportunity and missed every one of them.
Oh
missed
wow.
every. That could happen with pass. You have those games with your pass rush,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
and if that happens in the playoffs, now obviously I have a much better pass rush than I have with the Chargers stock team with this squad. So you like to think the 45s turn into 65, and the numbers have a much better chance of working out. But I think we all know those games that we have a couple times a year where your pass rush is superior and you're just not getting the 100 die roll. You're just not getting it. So that could easily sink me in the playoffs, because if that happens, people are going to get long gains on me deep. Yeah, I have 2-5 corners. That doesn't matter much when you have as many good third wide receivers as you have out there, and four wide receivers who can go deep here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice to have those corners, but if you don't have a 5 nickel and other things working, I'm going to give up some long gains. So in short, Lawrence, I've just got to avoid that bad pass rush roll game in the playoffs like I just had with my Chargers. That's going to be the difference.
Well, one thing I was thinking if somebody's playing you and they have to go 80 yards or 75 yards, it could be tough because sooner or later the pass rush could get to them. To be able before they could get all the way down to make a touchdown.
That's right. That's right. And I'll be looking at matchups every single game, right? Am I going 3-4 or 4-3, depending on who the guards are, right? And what those matchups look like. It's great having 2 outside linebackers with that kind of pressure, right? Because I can blitz the guy who I don't mind leaving uncovered.
Yeah.
And between the two, right? Between Watt and what's the other guy's name? Right outside linebacker, who's an 11.
Dupree, isn't it?
Yep, Dupree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have to blitz them both, right? I don't have to, especially
No.
if I have the safety coming, I can pick and choose those to leave the guys covered. So it's going to be a very fun team to play.
Yeah.
It's going to frustrate me. I'm going to give up some big bombs, but it's going to be wild. I'm looking forward to it.
And that's the same attitude I have. I love the fact that I have, JPP and Barrett are, I think, a 9 and an 8 on the outside, but I got that 10 middle linebacker, that inside linebacker with the 10 pass rush. So that's going to cause some havoc too. So yeah. I'm just looking forward to playing this. I might not score 1 million points, but I'm hoping I get 1 million sacks. How's that?
Me too.
I used this strategy before, and it did not work. But I think it was it last year or the year before when I had the Rams linebackers where they had all these great pass rushers, but they were all zeros. So that hurt me because you had to send them or just leave the zones with zeros. So why leave a 0 there when you can just blitz? So that was a problem. I didn't do that well with that team, but I'm hoping this team fares a little bit better.
Hopefully we get the
year for me to Battle Royale.
Let's get the league file and start playing, man. Come on.
Right. What's Dennis doing?
He just sent out another draft recap. I don't know what that was about.
Oh.
Now, I got key. Lawrence, you're in the SSFA, aren't you?
No, I'm only in Strat 28 now. I was in the league. Then 5 years ago, I moved to Hawaii, and I had different things. So I basically de-emphasized it, and this is my first time in 2 years being in like Battle Royale and all that.
Oh, okay. So. Yeah. I get Keith Mowber's trying to talk. We're talking about who he's going to take at number 3 tomorrow morning. We have our draft, so it'll be interesting. I'm sorry.
What pick are you tomorrow?
Who's he gonna take?
He wants one of the QBs, Burrows or Herbert, and he'll probably get one because the guy that has the second pick has Josh Allen. So I'm sure he'll take Taylor. I'm saying if Taylor makes it to you, I'll sell the farm for him. Although my team has so many damn holes, I'm not going to compete anyway. I've been trying to trade Matt Ryan for 3 years and nobody wants him. So we'll see how that works out. But anyway, I mean, I have Matt Ryan and Tyreek Hill, and that's about it.
I tell you, I'm surprised you're not getting something for Ryan. And that's interesting because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Ryan has one more life left in him, right? QBs have many lives. Yeah. So Baker Mayfield probably has 2 more lives in him that we don't even know about yet. Like, it's a little different than Tannehill, right? Tannehill's in the middle of his second life right now. I think Ryan has one more life in him with one more team where he's going to get some decent cards for a couple of years.
Well, I'm looking at this. I mean, Drew Brees. Drew Brees has a better card, but has less future, obviously. But he got 2 third-round picks for Brees. I'm figuring, would I take a second for Matt Ryan? Probably. I'd have to play Drew Lock, or Tua, because Tua, I have the 6th pick, and I got Tua on 2 teams, and I'm scared to death right now. So we'll see how that works out. But Strat 28, I Taylor and Tua back to back. Hopefully that'll pan out, but we'll see.
I had Jimmy G in Strat 28, and so he was kind of rough with some of his interceptions and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I went from Ben Roethlisberger to Gardner Minshew to Tua Togo Viola, or whatever it is. So I'm searching.
Did Minshew get 100 attempts this year? I don't know what the limits are going to be. Maybe we might go up a little bit because of 18 games, huh? But did he? Is he going to qualify?
He qualified last year for Joe, and that's what Joe was looking for. So,
Right.
I got a 1st-round pick for Minshew, so I wasn't complaining.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean a late first, but
still. All right, guys.
Anthony, thanks for throwing this together, man. Appreciate it.
Happy to. Hopefully, we get that league file and we can be on our way this weekend.
Yeah, let's get that file out and get. I'll have my games done by the weekend.
Right on.
Hopefully, he's putting the file together now. Yeah.
All right, gents. Have a great weekend,
guys.
and we'll see you on the games hopefully soon.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.